What would women dislike most if they became men? I'm currently temporarily unemployed while I figure my life out, and my boyfriend generously and graciously supports me. Nobody thinks anything of it. If I were a man, everyone would think I'm a bum and that my partner should leave me. Yeah, I'm a stay-at-home dad and I always get, "When are you planning on going back to work?" And my wife gets, "It'd be really sad if I had to do that." My husband wanted to be a Sard. Unfortunately, it wasn't feasible for us. I think it's awesome that more and more dads are getting that chance. It's rough. As a guy, the reactions I got to being between jobs for a single month were worse than the reactions my wife got to being between jobs for over a year. There was a universal pressure to get any job ASAP, even if it was a downgrade. Every second I didn't have a job, I was a loser. General response to my wife's unemployment was very positive and patient. A lot of people saying to take the time to develop her passions, maybe take a community college class, and to take a job she likes when the time comes. An air of "go find yourself, girl. It'll all be okay." The only person who gave her any pressure was my mother, because she saw it was a massive burden on me. That little bit of pressure had people acting like my mum was a bitch for not being completely understanding of her unemployment. I would hate having my junk on the outside of my body. Very vulnerable. Edit. Conversations in this thread led me to remember an incident when I was a kid where my little brother accidentally had the toilet seat lid slammed shut on his wiener and my parents had to take him to the emergency room. He ended up being okay, albeit very bruised and in a lot of pain, but looking back, this may be at the root of my reverse penis envy neurosis. Good talk, everybody. I'll take that over getting a period every month anytime. I have an IUD and haven't had a period in 8 years. It fucking rules. Sadly, not all women's bodies respond the same way. I got very lucky. Loved my IUD, also love my son who was born with said IUD in the placenta. You really can't just end it there. What happened? Guessing she had a healthy baby who is going to grow up to have the best two truths and a lie ever. Holy shit, I didn't know that was a thing. Hope he's all good. Dude, they should mandate a big-ass warning speech from the doctor on those things. My wife's doctor did the whole "you should bring a baby aspirin for the insertion." It's really not a big deal, and that was it. I literally had to carry my wife, who's given birth, without so much as crying, out of the exam room. She was in so much pain, which lasted for, like, a damn week. It also kicked off an immediate mental health issue as the IUD spun her into a massive anxiety depression loop for the next 2 months until she has the IUD removed after her mum identified the timing line up on the insertion. She had never dealt with anxiety or depression before the IUD and never struggled with it again after. Her DOC at the extraction was just like, weird. Well, I guess everyone's different. I was so pissed. Yup. There is finally awareness coming to the fact that women's pain is often not taken seriously by the medical profession. It's barbaric that pain relief is not a standard part of the procedure. They don't do it because insurance doesn't cover it. Women need to ask for it and pay out of pocket. It's insane. Edit to add, I'm guessing the anxiety and depression was caused by the progesterone, which usually ISNE felt so systemically from an IUD, but possibly it got her ENP way out of balance. Very sorry this happened to her. Or I'm so sorry. That really sounds awful. Yeah, I worry about potentially messing with my hormones, so even though it would be nice not to bleed for days every month. I got the copper IUD and has been great for 10 years. Didn't get my period ever again after getting an IUD at age 36. Never looked back. Skated right through menopause with very few symptoms. It was the FING best thing I ever did. I didn't even consider this as a possibility. I'm absolutely doing what you did. Oh my god, it's genius. I'm the same with the pill. Bonus. Ideally, no one would get a period. I'd like genitalia I could avert for peeing when it is cold, and invert for day to day. Sail for boobs, every for party time. Flatten them for exercise and sleeping. Yes, and then when it's hot and it would stick to your leg. Yuck. How do they walk around with those things? It's not so bad TBH. There's just certain things you know would end badly, so you don't do them. Like sitting down too quickly wearing loose-fitting boxer shorts, or zippers on dicks. Franks and beans. Franks and beans. There's something about Mary taught me to never go commando. Lol. And you got kicked in the nuts as a kid and learned from it. Lol. Lol. My roommate once complained about sitting on his balls, and I'm still so confused. So, if you're wearing very loose-fitting underwear or like just a pair of pajama pants or something, and do that whole throw yourself onto the sofa and let gravity do its job thing, then there is a chance your balls are right between your thighs and it really hurts. They always have to be strong. I always found it strange that my dad didn't cry when his mommy grandma passed away around 20 years ago. He has dementia now, and he's always asking when we're going to visit her. I feel like those are his real emotions coming out. My mother's oldest sister died at 4 in 1950. 57 years later, my grandma died. At the funeral, my grandfather was extremely distraught and he cried so much. Later, one of my sisters was comforting him, and he told her that when his daughter died, he thought he needed to be strong for his wife, and he should not cry. And he didn't. And she was mad at him. She couldn't understand why he didn't cry. But at that point, he had shut it off, and that was that. And he said to my sister, "Today I was crying for both of them. Fuck, now I'm crying." My grandfather cried 2 times in 29 years. When he got diagnosed with cancer, when my grandmother died, he's cancer-free and in a support group, but he shed his tears, and that's that. I never saw my dad cry in 43 years. He was the most stoic person I'd ever met, but not in the way you think. He was soft-spoken and loved us unconditionally. Give anyone the shirt off his back. He came from the silent generation. Endured things I can't imagine. And yet, he was a gentle giant. Never saw him get angry once either. You'll never understand the pain I've endured to be this gentle. He probably did cry, but he did it in secret. When I lost my soul dog, I was a wreck, but I always kept it together in front of my friends and family. I would openly weep the minute I was by myself. Men do show emotion. We just don't let it show to others. Fuck that shit. I cry all the time. Same. My dad channeled all emotions into rage, so I do the opposite. I'd rather be seen as weak than be an asshole like he was. I'm a man in my 40 seconds. No one has punished me for showing emotions or anything, but it's just so ingrained in me that I shouldn't. I fought the tears back when our daughter began in school, cried later when alone. My little girl is slipping through my fingers, as a not very manly band once sung about. I love my wife, but she is far less emotional than me, and I don't think she would understand. I keep calm and feel guilty for participating in upholding the expectations that boys shouldn't cry, especially if it grows everywhere except the scalp, lol. I was blessed to have little to no chest hair. As you get older, you start getting some where none was earlier, but I would have not liked being a gorilla-type dude. Seen a guy in the gym locker room who was basically Bigfoot. He had that much hair. Women grow body hair too, sometimes as much as men. Yup, I actually have way more leg hair than my boyfriend. It's kinda crazy how bald that man is. Lol. The silence. Guys don't usually get the same space to talk about feelings. You'd go to open up, and suddenly it's just awkward stares or a quick subject change. That would feel rough. The silence. Guys don't usually get the same space to talk about feelings. You'd go to open up, and suddenly it's just awkward stares or a quick subject change. This is exactly my biggest problem. I have a sister. She could open up about just about anything growing up, and our parents were there to listen and support. Me, I was just told to get it together and that I needed to just be better. So I'd bottle up my feelings until they eventually exploded in frustration. But instead of that being a wake-up call of, "Oh, this kid needs help, I just got size," awkward. Looks like I'm the problem in the situation, and not much else. Only when I became an adult did my parents ever listen to my problems. Now I don't know how to properly open up, and it makes relationships incredibly difficult. Thanks, Mum and Dad. As adults, she still opens up to them and gets support. I get more these days than I did as a kid, but it's still not much of anything, so I just don't talk about it. Then they wonder why I'm never doing anything. I am. I go through a decent amount. I just know it's pointless to talk about because even if I did open up, what would come of it? Fucking nothing. And they wonder why I don't talk to them much. This the most. Ever open up and it's all, that sucks, and immediate subject change. We don't get the same consoling from venting that women do. Balding. Imagine suffering from a psychologically crippling event that society seems acceptable to mock. Not just that, but also if you try to do anything about it, you get mocked for that too. Woman gets a wig or weave, nobody cares. Dude does. You're gonna get heckled. It goes from, oh, Renee, Your hair looks hot. It's a nice toupee, jag-off. Be short and this is your entire life and there's nothing you can do about it. Dating. You'll hate dating, especially dating apps. Edit. Calm down, people. This isn't a competition. I have a female best friend and we both agree that we're around the same level of attractiveness. A few years ago we decided to compare Tinder accounts and I had 20 matches. Not bad for a guy. And she had over 20,000. Literally 1000x more. Granted, our swiping habits were different. Since I was more selective, I'd swipe on about 25 and her about 80, according to the stats. But it's just completely different worlds. Thank God I have a fiancé now and don't have to worry about dating apps anymore. A woman swiping on majority feels insane to me. It's interesting how many answers are balls. As a man, I'd much rather have balls than deal with periods. I've known women who wanted to have hysterectomies just to avoid having to deal with periods. I've never once heard a man say he wanted castration to avoid dealing with having balls, not even as a joke. I think you're missing the point though. It isn't a comparison. It is just what women would dislike the most if they were a man. I'd also much rather have balls than deal with periods. But of all things in my life as a guy, having balls is something I could definitely live without. Being treated like crap until somebody needs something. Being asked to open up emotionally, then having that knowledge used against you. I just had that happen last night. Did the right thing finally and called a friend and told them what was going on and that I was feeling very close to the edge. I'd been told as a guy, that's what we should do. Less than 2 weeks later and it has been their ammo in arsenal when we were disagreeing on something. Fuck sharing stuff as a guy about feeling suicidal if it will be used against you at a later date. Good Lord, man. That's not a friend. That's an adversary. Keep tabs on them and use them as a motivator to be happier than. It's the best revenge. Then get new friends. Or focus on your real ones. That person doesn't deserve your time. They honestly deserve a punch in the gut, but that's not nearly as rewarding as doing better than them. Constantly having the worst assumed of you. Man's perspective. They dislike not being pampered all the time. I recently watched a YouTube clip of a 70-year female academic studying male-female love patterns and she declared men are the more romantic of the sexes, willing to make much grander gestures. As a gay man watching straight men and women, I can agree, straight men, as a gay friend of mine once said, are the unsung heroes of the world. It has become normalized for men to take a lot of abuse from women, and for women to expect extraordinary special VIP treatment without returning the favor. Male privilege arc and no one gives a fuck about you. No compliments, and no one cares about you. Nobody is coming to help you for the most part. What you can't make happen yourself just doesn't happen. No safety net, no parachute. Reading this helped me understand why my closest friends are so important to me, and also why my wife doesn't seem to understand that. When a man finds the persons who will be there when you ask for any reason, those are just invaluable. True. My best friend told me I could visit him at 4 in the morning with a shovel in hand and he wouldn't ask questions. That I suddenly won't find anything in the fridge even when it's right in front of me. Thank you for considering our plight. If it would move in the fridge, we could see it, but it stays still, just hiding there in plain sight. Constant social pressure to be tough or aggressive. This ruined a large portion of my childhood. I've always been really emotional and quick to have panic attacks. So this idea of being the strong, stoic man made me reclusive throughout most of my schooling. It also didn't help that my 5th grade teacher exacerbated all those fears by just outright hating me. Having women think they're potentially suspect for being cordial or friendly. Being told they prefer being alone in the woods with a bear. If you listen to trans men, the isolation and loneliness. The lack of sympathy or empathy from other people. Not being able to interact with children without being side-eyed. I got side-eyed with my own kids because they're multiracial and I'm not. Yep, got some looks when I was taking care of my nieces and nephews. It's like guys aren't supposed to take care of kids, especially if they are not his own. Being treated as a potential danger until proven otherwise. Until proven otherwise? No, you never get to that point. The way society assumes men don't struggle mentally. If I became a man, it'd dislike how invisible depression, anxiety, or loneliness would feel. The high amount of male suicides shows that society knows men struggle mentally, they just don't care. Balls. What a Peter. It took me too long to understand you were not talking about a flatbread. If they're a Peter, you may want them looking at. They shouldn't be back there. This is not medical advice. I think they'd hate the way people speak to them more transactionally, superficially. Also, assuming they get an equivalent body appearance, but in male body, for example, a 4 becomes a 4, a 2 becomes a 2. They'd probably dislike how most women don't welcome their presenza conversion. Worried? Stressed? Scared? Bottle it up and keep it moving, little bro. They're worth being tied to the work they do. The toxic standards set towards men. Too weak? Too short? Too fat? Too skinny? Too bald? Too bad? Not being able to so easily have multiple orgasms. Very sensitive bits on the outside of my body. Rubbing on or sticking to my legs and sometimes popping up at bad times. I can barely tolerate my boobs most days, let alone external genitalia. Why are human bodies like this? Over 90 of all life forms that have existed on Earth are dead. The ones that kept going are the ones that don't consume too much resources, breed fast and can make use of the environment. Also, due to our ability to sweat, we are, by far, the best endurance athletes out of any species, ever. We survive, but it's far from being a walk in the park. For the record, I'm a man. Once you're past the age of about 17, sometimes popping up at bad times isn't an issue anymore. But when you're about 15 or 16, that is a very real and very constant danger. The sudden lack of attention that comes your way without even trying. If someone is one of those who thrive off other people's attention, oh boy, you're in for a bad day. How they get treated. People don't treat men the way they treat women. Other men view you from the perspective of hierarchy, and women view you either as dating material or you could potentially be a person who essays people, and no in between. Bro, holy fuck. Especially that last one. Dead ass. That is how it is. By women, you really are viewed as either dating material or potential sexual predator. Now, this doesn't mean that the woman herself wants to date you, but it does mean she views you as yay. He's a valid dating option for someone. My brother is me, only male and 4.5 years younger, so I have a good idea. Not being able to wear dresses or skirts when I feel like it without being ridiculed. Being expected to like football, soccer, women and drinking. Mental health not being taken seriously. Having a penis sounds like a lot of hassle. Male pattern baldness. My brother is nearly bald. Balls seem really inconvenient. I'm so surprised evolution decided that it would put such a fragile body part dangling by a few strips of skin between their legs. Sperm doesn't do well at a full 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, so the balls dangle a little bit away from the rest of the body so they can be slightly cooler. I think they figured this out in the 70s when skin-tight pants were in fashion for men, and it was causing temporary sterility. She said, with 2 huge melons on her chest. Male pattern baldness. That's it. You'd love to take advantage of the testosterone and build lots of muscle though. I have a trans friend. FTOM. I did not realize hereditary male pattern baldness would happen with the testosterone on a genetic female. It was weird seeing him grow a beard and lose scalp hair. How other women treat them, even if just trying to be nice. I saw a woman at the gym working out in front of me, like literally 10 feet away. She was doing this exercise where she would lift the weight above her shoulders and behind her back. I am not a gym expert, but the way her left arm moved when she lifted the weight suggested a possible injury. Like, no way, that is right. So I thought a little if I should mention it, because maybe she was not aware, and I thought, well, if it was me, I would like someone told me so I did not get an elbow problem. I told her. She just shook her head when I asked if her arm hurt, then took all her things and left, visibly upset. I never understood that. Not being able to talk to and interact with kids without people thinking I'm up to something. Dating apps. I was successful with many matches, but for most men, I've been told it sucks. I would hate having to fight and display physical strength to find my place on the male totem pole. It always seems like such a stupid thing to be judged on. I think at first they would be relieved to not having people randomly try to talk to them throughout the day. But eventually they would notice that people generally aren't as nice to men as they are to women when it comes to basic interactions between strangers. From either sex, gender dysphoria sucks, most women would hate it. Weird that this is not more upvoted. It would literally be gender dysphoria for most people. Very rough. Nobody buys you drinks. I think it disliked the loss of my mum privilege. When I take my daughter to a play center or playground, I can engage with the children, even pick up a stranger's kid, and nobody bats an eyelid. If a bloke did that, you have no idea how right you are. This man was in jail for 47 days because of a false accusation of kidnapping. As a good man, the constant fear of accusations is terrifying. My female friend thinks I'm being overdramatic, but if I'm ever the only person in a store aisle and someone else's child walks into the area, I'll leave immediately. Most women I know hate being ignored. Most men I know are simply used to it. How women treat them. They would realize real quick that they had an easier life. Male loneliness. Men lack the emotional support women give each other. My two closest friends and I hang out each week. I refuse to just be a social hang and have encouraged them to be and do more. I have gotten them gifts in the past for their birthday holidays, and it seems to have finally taken root with them. Soon I'll plant the seeds of a gift swap and group trips. Women don't give emotional support either, or I'm just unlucky and continuously make selfish female friends. Edit, wanted to note that I am a woman. Men will never know the true sisterhood in women's bathrooms. Some of my best friends I've made in bathrooms at work, concerts, bars, fancy events, etc. All the extra hair. Some is good in small doses. But dude, as a woman here, I think a lot of these must be answers by men, not women. As a woman, it definitely say getting caught in a zipper. Really, anything testes related, and not having close emotionally supportive friendships with other men. The complete and utter lack of recognition from most people you encounter in life. Probably other men forcing their insecurities onto me. Telling me, oh, that's gay. Men don't do that, etc. When it's basic stuff like caring what your wife thinks, having empathy, or letting your daughter paint your nails for fun, etc. Unless you're at a gay bar. Nobody's buying your drinks. For me, if I was a man, I would hate how society looks at me. How I'm supposed to keep it together emotionally, kinda the suck it up, you are a man kinda thing. I think personally, it causes men to be emotionally cut off. I hope we change that someday for men. I remember a trans man explaining this exactly. For so many reasons, men are lonelier. The big one they talked about was just how differently women treated them after they transitioned. Women were significantly less comfortable and vulnerable around them, treating them as a threat. But it's also just an expectation of men to be more stoic than women. They aren't allowed to cry and open up like women are in any situation. They talked about how everyone generally just stopped caring about them like they did before. Even as a man, I understand why women are so protective around men. It's 100% justified, but damn, it really cuts you and makes you feel worthless. Ugly women face that too. Apparently it's already proven when they go trans, they are mortified about the complete lack of attention and attitudes of people. As a trans man, I can only speak from my own experience, but the lack of attention has been the most freeing and genuinely my favorite part of transition. When I presented as a woman, the amount of attention I got was so overwhelming and unwanted and unyielding. Now, nobody looks twice, and I'm delighted. Mortified is not the correct word to describe this. Most women. And how they judge males who don't even know they exist. Today went shopping and some woman was looking at my trolley judging. Fuck off bitch, it's my wife's list. But the alcohol was mine. No more multiple orgasms. Being wrong every time. Lack of clothing variety. Not getting any compliments anymore. General increase in responsibility without an accompanying increase in respect. I would miss being able to find things in the refrigerator. The trans men tend to say the loneliness. Nobody cares about or lends an ear to your problems anymore. Shaving every day. Pop-up tents in my pants. Being expected to do all those jobs that most women don't do, like work in a sewage plant. I'm sure there are some. But the majority of people working with crap are men. Sucking out porta potties, working in sewers, being garbage collectors, sanitation workers, and killing spiders. Yup, killing spiders is a big one for me. You're joking, right? Women are human and have hair, dude. We just shave plukvax everything. I blame porn for this insane take. How much other men are probably comfortable saying to me, I'm white and work with the public. White people say all sorts of racist shit thinking I'll think it's funny or agree just cause I'm white too. It'd drive me insane if I was a man. Society will not help you. You are on your own. Zero safety net, no family or friends will help support you even for a day. The weeks. Long stretches of time where you are not hanging out with anyone. You can't make meaningful friendships or even small talk with anyone but other men. Because women and minorities will automatically be afraid of you. I'm constantly hanging out with my wife's friend and her husband. Almost any time my own friends finally manage to plan something. Something comes up. Quick edit, some men are minorities too. Realizing that I may as well have been born a man, because I already go through all of these things, same as I guess every man is expected to. The loneliness and the lack of freedom to express oneself. Right off the bat, knowing my culture and making the presumption I'd be on the shorter side. My height, long haul, the pressures from society to provide and be an emotionless rock that can't cry ever. Immediate sex options or even just attention sources drops like 96. You are not automatically friends with anyone unless you really have something in common with them. Most trans men are thrown off by how weird people act when they just smile and say hi or engage. Any neediness or weakness results in loss of value, even if it's not obvious. The dangly bits. Boobs are bad enough, but we don't have to learn to not squash them when we walk. Not having close friendships. The social stigma against expressing emotions while also having a penis. I can imagine, in the summer, sitting on your own testicles for the very first time would be a real jarring experience. Probably how isolated it feels. And you have to put extra effort to approach more people and be social. It can feel very lonely. The lack of attention and emotional support. I don't think any well-informed dude disagrees that as men, we have it easier physically. But I still strongly feel women have it easier emotionally in a liberal state country. I've heard sitting on your balls sucks, so probably that. Being held accountable for their actions. The loneliness of being a man. Being held to a higher standard. How little anyone gives a fuck about their emotions or mental well-being all of a sudden. The emotional solitude. You are very alone as a man, being afraid to open up, or not being afraid to, opening up, and then seeing how it's usually handled. I'm very short, and I hate it as a woman. If I was a very short man, that would be worse. But that's about it. Everything except being able to pee standing up. And if you are a father, you are considered a babysitter more than a parent, and incompetent when it comes to household chores such as laundry, washing dishes, vacuuming, cleaning the bathroom, etc., sitting on all that stuff in my pants, and visible sexual excitement, and being judged for the money you make, and having to hold in your feelings, and never getting any attention. Sometimes we get attention. Not always the good kind though. Usually people ask for help, people you've never met before. The lack of compliments. I've always admired how freely and genuinely women compliment each other. Men rarely do this, and also rarely get complimented by women. So yeah, I think women would find the lack of that connection and validation to be eye-opening at least. The constant blame of the patriarchy. I raised 2 sons and I have a wonderful husband. It's not easy knowing they are blamed for the ills of the world just because. This X1000. We tend to get blanket blamed for everything, and the positive things we do tend to get overlooked or just becomes expected. They would hate not being able to express emotions, because if you do as a man, you're somehow a weak coward in society's eyes. All you're allowed to do is be painfully stoic or angry. And when you're angry, everyone is mad at you. There are a lot of answers circling around the same general idea. You would hate the loneliness, whether that be from dating apps, the lack of compliments or random touch, the fear of being accused of something, the expectation to face your battles alone or in silence. It's lonely. Hell, even guys in relationships feel it. And no, this is not from the Men Teach Men How to Be This Way Feminist 101 class, so save that ridiculousness. Their friends not asking follow-up questions about drama would drive them insane probably. The emotional desert that is male friendship. The amount of hair everywhere creeps me out. Like, I love it on my man, but the minute my armpit hair gets too long, I start freaking out. Having their vehicle borrowed. Having their hoodies borrowed. Having to socialize with other men and do smelly boy stuff. Having to seem strong and not be emotional. Lack of intimate deep friendships. People talking to me about sports and expecting me to care about sports. I don't care about the sports ball going in the points thing. Having my dick think for me would be problematic. I feel like testosterone would make me a menace. The idea of not using toilet paper after peeing makes me uneasy. I would be leaned over a sink constantly. Minor details. Pretty sure I would love everything else about it. I feel like men, on the other hand, once they got over playing with their own boobs and realized that vaginas are not as exciting from the other side, and I say this as a lesbian, would be quickly begging for their balls back. I have had wild dreams where I wake up with an extra appendage. Bizarre. Oh, I forgot to mention the most important thing. Pockets on everything. The way men and boys treat, abuse each other, even their friends. I would howl at having scratchy facial hair. I already hate my scratchy body hair. It'd go insane if that shit was on my face and grew back every single morning. This is how trans women feel. You just imagined it. I'd miss having intimate relationships that aren't just my partner. Like, I love my friendships, but I notice men don't have as emotionally vulnerable relationships with their friends. Having hair just everywhere. I would suspect that it's being kicked in the nuts. I'd be so happy to be standing up, safely walk around at night, and have my ideas taken seriously at work. It would take me a while to get to the downsides. At that point, and assuming I take after the men in my family, probably back hair. I feel like for the first month they would love being invisible to everyone else. Afterwards they'd probably hate it. The expectation of responsibility. First thing that pops into my head. Pockets. Like, real ones. Imagine suddenly getting jeans where you can fit your whole phone and snacks. Instant pro-life hacks. But on a more note, I feel like a lot of women would low-key hate how bottled up guys are expected to be emotionally. Like, no crying, no deep convos unless there's a crisis. That would drive a lot of us nuts real quick. I'd miss my boobies. Emotional isolation, expectations to just suck it up and get on with things. Default of being feared and treated as suspicious when in the company of women, especially if you've never met before, probability of ridicule for being vulnerable. There's a lot that would probably be a big culture shock. How little emotional support men are allowed to have. Friendships can feel way more shallow. The hair all over their body and face. Being attracted to women that you are invisible to. Accountability for your actions. Flirting to get preferential treatment. That suddenly no one cares about them. The complete lack of special treatment from society. No special treatment from your parents or siblings. No special treatment in schools, universities, etc. No special treatment at work. No basic courtesies in common public. No one rushes to help you or hold the door, etc. That is probably the most jarring thing. If a woman was transformed into a man, once they try to get a date on a dating app, that will really seal the difference.